Yo, what's up guys, hope you guys are doing good. So today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Erza, Minajane, Sayla, part 1. So before we start please subscribe to our channel and like this video. So let's get into the video. No rage, no sadness or pain, no feelings of euphoria or relief. Just absolutely nothing. If one had to describe the feelings of one Naruto Uzumaki as he laid up on the hospital bed, the only word that would come to mind as they observed his facial expression was blank. Nothing seemed to faze him, he looked for all intents and purposes as though he had nothing to live or die for. A rather disheartening conclusion for the legendary Jiraiya the Toad Sage and the 5th Tsunade Senju as they stared at the boy that came to mean so much to them both. Hey kid, I know you're hurting, but you'll pull through this and before you know it you'll become and will be barking orders at both me and Tsunade, so stay strong kiddo. Jiraiya spoke softly to his apprentice, internally hoping to see a sign of life in his eyes. Nothing, a depressingly expected reaction for both Sannin as they've been enduring the silent treatment from the young blonde since he woke up half an hour ago after 48 hours of being unconscious. Naruto just continued to emptily gaze at the ceiling of the hospital. When admitted to a hospital, the first and only thing the blonde would do when regaining consciousness was to escape, as he'd much rather spend his time training or eating ichiraku or trying to convince Sakura-chan to go out on a date with him. It was, as he found a better way to spend his time overstaying in the boring hospital, not today though. This time around the young shinobi had no thoughts of an escape plan, no sudden notion of wanting to leave the hospital. This time the blonde was content to spend his time here and contemplate in silence about the recent events that transpired 2 days ago. 2 days ago he fought his best friend and rival Sasuke Uchiha and successfully brought him back to Konoha. One would think that the young would have been jumping for joy at his success, and that most certainly would have been the case if not for the fact that his best friend almost killed him. Family is something precious, they're supposed to care and look out for one another no matter what. So why would Sasuke, his best friend and brother, try to kill him? Sure, he was fighting Sasuke to prevent him from joining Orochimaru and to force him back in Konoha, but that was because he cared. Did Sasuke not care for him? Or did he, but he decided that the bond they shared was not worth it. It baffled the blonde that someone he trusted immensely was the very same one to be the cause of his life almost fading away. Death came very close to clutching Naruto's existence, and the one responsible for that was the one who he proudly claimed to be his best friend, his rival, and his brother, a claim that in the end proved to be entirely one-sided, as he bitterly found out. Clearly he needed to evaluate everything that happened in his life because to continue on, as though nothing happened was extremely stupid. The blonde could not pretend as though everything was fine between him and Sasuke because it was not. His friend tried to kill him. That alone told the blonde that he wasn't living his life right. And so the young calmly stayed in his bed contemplating everything while thoroughly ignoring any and all company that came to visit him. I've never seen him like this, Jiraiya. Tsunade voiced out painfully, her chocolate brown eyes full of worry and concern for the boy she recently came to care for. I know Tsunade, but Naruto is a strong kid, I have every faith in him that he'll be alright. Naruto, it's me Tsunade Bachan, please talk to me, you can tell me and Jiraiya anything kid and I promise you that everything will be alright. She cupped both of Naruto's cheeks and kissed his forehead, her maternal instincts compelling her to embrace the boy and embrace her. Jiraiya joined in on the hug. What she said, kiddo, you can talk to us and tell us anything you want or need to get off your chest, we're your family and you are ours. No response. Naruto, you did everything right and you aren't a horrible person if that's what you're thinking. If anything, in my eyes you are the sweetest and the most innocent kid out there. Never think otherwise. Tsunade only hugged him tighter to emphasize her point. Jiraiya wholeheartedly agreed with his teammate's claim as he gazed at his precious apprentice. Naruto, you're one of the kindest souls out there in the world and the sad thing is that there are many who will try to change that. To change and twist you into something else altogether. Sasuke Uchiha is just one of many. Jiraiya placed his hand on Naruto's head and affectionately ruffled his hair. I know it's hard to accept that, kiddo, but it wasn't that Sasuke wasn't thinking straight or that he was influenced by the curse mark. No, he was perfectly fine when he decided that he wanted you dead. You just need to understand that he never was your friend to begin with. Someone like him didn't deserve your friendship in the first place and you have to ensure that he doesn't ever get another chance at becoming your friend because he will take advantage of your kindness and try to kill you. Jiraiya hoped that his student, though unresponsive, would take his words to heart. Naruto just continued to blankly stare at the ceiling. He heard both Jiraiya and Tsunade, but was simply not in the mood to respond. Naruto, Tsunade murmured gently. It's, as I said earlier, you did the right thing in forcing Sasuke back to Konoha, as it was your mission. Sasuke might claim that you're a monster, but just remember that he has no ground to speak on considering he tried to kill you. You're not a monster, Naruto, and both me and Jiraiya are proud of you. she finally let go of the blonde, internally praying that anything she or her teammates said would stick to the boy who reminded her so much of her little brother and fiancé. To say Sasuke Uchiha was in her shite list was putting it lightly. Only two things were stopping her from killing that spoiled and disgusting brat: the council and the reaction of the boy she was hugging. Both she and Jiraiya felt their heartbreak as they gazed at Naruto's empty and lifeless eyes. Tsunade couldn't bear looking anymore and quickly kissed the younger blonde's forehead and walked away, leaving only Jiraiya to remain with the fourth Hokage's legacy. The legacy that Jiraiya failed in nurturing and protecting. He vowed despite his past failures that he wouldn't fail Naruto any more than he already had in his life. If you ever want to talk to Naruto about anything, just know that I'm more than happy to help and be there for you. Jiraiya once more ruffled the Jinchuriki's hair affectionately, then walked away, leaving Naruto to silently contemplate his thoughts, in addition to everything that Jiraiya and Tsunade had said to him. The fact that his friend and rival tried to kill him made it painstakingly clear to him that some, or perhaps even all those he considered to be his friend or family, could also harbor the same intentions, and that wasn't acceptable with a young shinobi. Some of his precious people didn't truly care for him and, as of now, the only thing that mattered to him was analyzing every past interaction and determining who he could and couldn't trust. Many hours passed for the unusually passive and silent blonde. He hadn't had any company ever since Jiraiya and Tsunade left, and for that the young shinobi was grateful. There was a lot of anger and bitterness in him that just waited to be released, as he spent hours just filtering through past memories spent with people who he thought cared for him. As it turned out, now that he actually paid attention, there weren't many who did care, but of that remarkably short list who did, among them was Jiraiya and Tsunade, the ramen stand owners, Haruka and Konohamaru, Shikamaru, Choji, Hinata, and Gaara, who he developed a kinship with. Outside of that, everyone else just either saw him as a useful tool or as an annoyance. Or as a monster. Naruto thought, crinkling him now in disgust. He got off the hospital bed and calmly walked out of the room, a rare occurrence in itself, as he usually left through the window. Being the Kyuubi came with its own perks, as Naruto was already healed from his injuries 2 days ago. Injuries and wounds and blemishes that would have taken weeks, months, and possibly years were all healed in just a time frame of 48 hours. All but one, as Naruto had a ghastly fist-shaped scar just an inch away from his heart, a scar that would never fade away, and the nine-tailed preferred it that way, a constant reminder to always keep an eye on not just his enemies, but on his friends as well. Eventually making it out of the hospital, the blonde shinobi wandered aimlessly through the empty streets of Konoha, his mind filled to the brim with the kind of thoughts and conclusions that would have upset him prior to the Uchiha trying to kill him. All my life I lived with everyone hating me for something out of my control. I trained so that I could become one someday, so that people can change their views about me. In the process I've made friends and met people that have become something like family to me. Some of my friends and family. Naruto thought sarcastically, we're never truly friends or family, a good example being the entirety of my team. If that's not stressful and annoying enough, I have a group of 10 S-rank criminals who are after me, and being criminals, they'd have no problem in targeting the few people he did still care about. It hurt his pride to admit, but compared to the likes of S-rank shinobi, Naruto in comparison was pathetically weak. If he wanted to protect those few who truly cared for him, then him being weak needed to change. That was the conclusion he made, but the question was where to start. The blonde decided to return to the hospital after his conclusion, feeling like he could use a good sleep and some rest. 4 days had passed since then, days spent almost entirely in solidarity, and that's how he preferred it. It gave him ample time to think and consider, to decide and muse, and the peace and quiet was calming. He didn't ever think he'd enjoy being alone, but surprisingly he did. It was then much to his dismay that he learned that he was finally allowed to have visitors, no doubt a ploy by Tsunade to help him. He understood her intentions and even respected her more for it, but he just simply wasn't in the mood to talk to anyone. Especially not Kakashi or Sakura. He wasn't very lucky. That was the thought going through his head as Sakura entered his room this evening. Hey Naruto, I'm sorry I didn't visit you earlier. I wanted to, but no one but Tsunade-sama was allowed to enter your room. I wanted to say thank you so much for keeping your promise to me and bringing Sasuke-kun back. What you did means a lot to me. Sakura frowned at the silence. Was Naruto still angry at Sasuke-kun for the fight a few days ago? But Sasuke-kun was being influenced by the curse mark that Orochimaru left on him. It wasn't really his fault that he tried to leave. I heard from Tsunade-sama that Sasuke-kun tried to kill you. I understand why you're angry, but I also know that he would never try to kill you if he wasn't being influenced by the curse mark. You're his best friend. Sakura spoke genuinely, meaning every word uttered. Naruto continued to ignore her, much more interested in studying the architecture of the ceiling than listening to Sakura's shrill voice. I can understand that you need time, but I wanted to check up on you and to thank you. You really are a good friend, and I hope you get out of the hospital soon. The pattern of silence continued. Sakura grew annoyed with her blonde teammate. Naruto. Stop ignoring me and say something. Naruto finally acknowledged her and slowly turned to look at the only other occupant of the room, coldly glaring at those who reeled back and gulped, totally unaccustomed to her blonde teammate who always asked her out on a date just staring at her so icily. I leave you on your own. Sakura left the room in a hurry, heart thundering with bits of fear and unease as she paced away. Seeing her leave made Naruto feel a lot better. But the memory of the words uttered remained. Did she really think Sasuke was under the influence of the curse mark? Did she really think that after serious contemplation that he would remain friends with her? Naruto wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, he knew that, and he accepted that there were many people who just happened to be smarter than he is, but by no means was he stupid. For the first time since he woke up, Naruto frowned as he looked towards the door where Sakura left. He rolled his eyes and laid back on his pillow, his mood thoroughly ruined no thanks to his former crush. He tried his best not to let her words ring in his head, and he succeeded eventually for the most part, his thoughts instead drifting to training and how to become stronger. After all, 10s rank shinobi are hunting him because of his burden. But was Kyuubi truly a burden? He may not like the beast, but it's not like the Kyuubi wanted to stay inside him either. Say what you will, but he at least could trust the Nine Tails in that he wanted his survival since they were tied because of the seal. Sure, almost everyone in the village despises him because of being A, but being A is what saved him from death at the hands of his teammate. Naruto didn't like the Kyuubi, a feeling that probably would never change, but he should at least thank the monster for helping him stay alive. But thinking of Kyuubi made Naruto's thoughts shift towards his goal or former goal of being Hokage. It started with wanting people to acknowledge him in a positive manner rather than to ignore or hate his existence. But was the acknowledgement of these people really important? Ever since he could remember, he would always be met with hateful glares or scorned looks, getting kicked out of the orphanage, not being served edible food or water. The only reason he's made it till now was because of the kindness and mercy of the ramen stand owners, and the third. The owners of Ichiraku Ramen were truly good to him, and so was the third Hokage, who despite not being available all the time, tried his best to be there, and Naruto loved him for that, but everyone else, they never gave him a chance. That thought was something Naruto made a habit to not think about. After all, it was better to look at the bright side of things, yes. That's how he lived his life despite all the hatred and misery that surrounded him, but after an attempt on his life by someone he considered precious. Naruto could not kid himself anymore. The way he continuously forgave everyone was wrong of him. There was nothing wrong with forgiving people, but there was a limit, and almost everyone here crossed that limit a long time ago. No longer could he pine after the dream of becoming Hokage, when the goal of becoming Hokage was for the acknowledgement of the cruel villagers and shinobis here. They were the real monsters for treating a child that way. He stood up and made his way outside the room. He'd been cooped up in the hospital long enough. He didn't feel like returning home just yet when he'd already been in a confined space for 4 days. Using some fresh air sounded just like what the doctor ordered. But that reasoning, a few minutes later Naruto found himself strolling through the forest, just silently admiring the beauty of nature and how it all seemed to look even better under the gaze of the moon. Hello. A woman's voice spoke to him from behind. Naruto paused and looked over the owner of the sensual voice. The owner in question being a beautiful young woman with moon-glistening olive skin and shimmering gold hair that cascaded all the way down to just above her wide hips. Her hair framed her delicate and angelic face in a way that only seemed to emphasize her breathtaking features. The small cute button nose on top of pink pouty lips, a sharp jawline that went in correlation with her high cheekbones, and perhaps her most distinguishable feature, being the finest set of hazel-colored eyes that just gazed at him amusingly, no doubt aware of the blonde giving her a once-over. The mystery woman was attired in a royal white toga that draped over her voluptuous shapely form. The curtain of fabric that concealed her whole body but left her slender shoulders and feminine arms exposed, while also possessing a 3/4 slit, showing off deliciously thick tan thighs that wobbled enticingly as she swayed her way towards him. It was a unique fashion choice, one that Naruto and the entire Elemental Nation was unfamiliar with. He was no Jiraiya, but even he felt his cheek dust a small pink before he forced the blush away. It's so nice to finally meet you, Naruto Uzumaki. She stood before him, towering over his 4'9" frame with her height of 5'4". My name is Akira, and I have an offer to make that I think you'll find most appealing. Naruto stayed silent, but a part of him was curious, and Akira easily picked up on that. I have been watching you for quite a long while now, and I have been very impressed with your inner character and spirit. And why have you been watching me? What is your offer? Naruto questioned her. I have been watching you because you want power, and I can give that to you. I also know of your secret desire to find a new home after recent and not so recent events, and I can help with that too. Akira took a small breath and continued. You wish for a place where people won't look at you and see the nine tails instead. You want a place free of the stigma of being and I can help you with both being strong and finding a new home away from all this hatred directed towards you. Naruto couldn't lie to himself, her offer did intrigue him, but regardless of whether he was comfortable leaving Konoha or not, there was no doubt that there was a motive behind this generous offer. And where is this place where I wouldn't be judged for being a how would you help me become strong? Furthermore, how would I know you're telling the truth? And if you are telling the truth, what's the catch behind this proposal? Akira inwardly smiled at the blonde's questioning. It was pretty cute and a little hilarious that she, a goddess of all beings, was getting interrogated by a young human child. The place I plan on sending you to is called Earthland. It's not here in the elemental nation or even in this world, rather it's an entirely different universe. She revealed it to him. Huh? Naruto was bewildered. Of all the things he was expecting to hear, he wasn't expecting a different dimension to be his answer. What the hell are you talking about? You will find this hard to believe, but I am a goddess Naruto-kun, and it's just, as I said, I can send you to another dimension where the concept of war is scarce, the ideas of jinchurikis do not exist there, and peace is much more prevalent in Earthland. Naruto frowned as he listened to her, so his ears weren't clogged up when she said that her idea of a new home was a different dimension. Despite the lunacy behind her statement, Naruto stayed at least to hear out. As crazy as this woman or goddess, as she called herself might be, she was in no way rude or condescending to him, he might as well reciprocate some of that respect by staying and hearing the end of her offer. Didn't mean he wouldn't question her claims though. You're a goddess huh? Naruto tried and failed to suppress the sarcasm in his tone. And why would I believe you to be one? Do you not realize how insane that lady sounds? Akira giggled at that. Pretty insane I know, but being a goddess, I have the answer to almost all your questions, and that should be good enough proof yes. Naruto narrowed his eyes. The answer to almost all my questions. She nodded enthusiastically. Naturally there are a few answers to certain questions that I'm forbidden to indulge, but any questions you have on almost anything I should be able to answer. Then you can start by telling me the names of my parents. Naruto asked her calmly, very much aware that she wouldn't know the answer to this question. Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. She answered smoothly. What? Naruto almost yelled out. My father is the fourth, you must be lying because there is no way he is my father, and who the hell is Kushina Uzumaki? We share the same last name, yes, but that could be a coincidence. Akira felt her heart break slightly for the child before her, she could only imagine the pain of not knowing one's parents. Kushina Uzumaki was the of the nine tails before you, and she is your parent, so is Minato Namikaze, you can verify my claim with her and your master Jiraiya. Naruto took a deep breath to calm himself and regain his composure. I will verify those claims for myself, but there are still some questions I have that still lack the answers I want. How would I become strong? And assuming that everything you said is the truth, what do you gain from this proposal? If you really are a goddess then wouldn't my help be unneeded? Hazel-colored eyes gleamed with ambition as they locked on a confused but firm blue. In Earthland, people do not possess chakra, but in its place is magic. Magic? Naruto questioned her. Akira nodded. Yes, magic has many similar qualities that it shares with chakra, but there are just as many differences. For starters, magic is not made within the body, but rather there are particles in the atmosphere called ether nano that the body absorbs and stores in an organ. The explanation is a lot more complicated to explain, but that's the gist of it. Magic in general is a lot more versatile than chakra, but that doesn't necessarily mean that magic is better. That said, you could become strong by learning a special brand of magic that is both powerful and incredibly unique to the world. And that form of magic is called? Naruto asked her curiously. She grinned. God Slayer magic, darkness God Slayer magic to be more precise. Naruto had to admit, the name sounded very cool, however he couldn't help but be confused. You're teaching me magic to slay you and your kind. Why? The answer to that question is related to what I benefit from you agreeing to our deal, assuming you do of course. Naruto said nothing but waited for her to continue. The smile on her face faded, her posture straightened, and her eyes conveyed power and resolution. She no longer looked like a cheerful young woman, as she regarded the with a seriousness one would expect from a godlike being. The reason I'm having you learn God Slayer magic is because I need you to kill a god, quite a few of them actually. That's my one and only condition, and if you agree to these terms, then I will send you to another world where you can train in God Slayer magic among other things, and become very powerful while finding a new home for yourself. Naruto crossed his arms as he stared at his fellow blonde. And why exactly do you need me, a mortal, to kill a bunch of gods when you yourself are a goddess and can fight them on your own? Because the form you see before you. Akira said while gesturing to herself. As a corporeal form, my true body is locked and sealed away. Naruto raised an eyebrow yet continued listening. I did go after them a long time ago, but I was rash and foolish. I was the strongest of them all, and due to my arrogance, I took them all on at the same time, and that's what led to my downfall and sealing. The only way for me to be free is for you to hunt and kill the gods responsible for sealing me one by one," she finished saying. "Even if everything you said is the truth, I can't just leave when I still have people I care about, people precious to me that could get attacked by some very powerful shinobi." Akira smiled at the hurt yet still pure-hearted teen. "The Akatsuki I am aware of, I know that the reason you thirst for power is to protect those you care about, even after everything you experienced. I have a solution to that problem. If you're willing, rather than just transport you to Earthland, I can transport you all there." Naruto thought long and hard about this. It would halt the Akatsuki's plan, yes, but didn't the other jinchurikis have a right to choose what they wanted? After all, as himself, Naruto knew the struggles of wanting to have his own rights and choices. It wouldn't be fair of him to decide for them when such a choice should be of their own choosing. "Is it possible to bring them here?" Naruto asked her seriously. "So they can choose for themselves if they wish to go to Earthland or to remain here." Akira nodded, and with a wave of her hand, an enormous circle formed on top of the unique duo, much to Naruto's shock. From the circle came the forms of the 8 others who each had their own unique reaction as they fell to the ground. So she really is a goddess, Naruto thought with amazement. "Fool you fool, anybody jumping the almighty killer bee better watch out cause I sting like a bee." What the fuck just happened? Killer bee, can you be serious for once? I'm too old for this. Ouch, my butt hurts. Where is that bastard Uchiha? Why are you all so noisy? Akira giggled and Naruto sweat-dropped as he observed his fellow, not exactly how he envisioned meeting others like him. Gara groaned as he got up, his gaze immediately landed on Naruto and his eyes lit up on seeing his friend until he registered the form of everyone that surrounded him. His posture tensed as he got into a defensive position. Such a reaction was mirrored by the other 7 as they each got into their own stance. "Everyone." Akira's melodious voice effortlessly captured the attention of the as they each glared at her minus Killer Bee and Rashi, the former blushing, as his eyes landed on a magnificent pair of breasts covered by her yoga while the latter had a massive nosebleed. Yujito was livid as she noticed just where Bee was staring at. "Focus you idiot." She whacked the back of his head and that caused Akira to break out into another giggle. "If I may have your attention, I brought you all here because of this young man," she said while gesturing towards the 9-tailed. Naruto stepped forward to address them all, a slight hint of nervousness creeping in his soul as he felt his fellow containers all gaze at him. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and like you all, I too am a." Such a statement brought wide-eyed reactions, as this was the first time that all 9 were in a single place. "I had you all brought here because this woman, or should I say goddess, can't send us to another world." Pan, the 5 tails, stepped forward. "And how exactly do you know for certain that this woman is a goddess?" Naruto scoffed. "How exactly do you think you were brought here along with everyone else?" "I too was doubtful until I saw her form a circle in the sky that brought all of you here. But I for one am grateful to you, young Uzumaki." The shortest of the group spoke up while gaining Naruto's attention. "If not for you then I'd still be robbed of my free will. My name is Yuguru Karatachi, the 4th Mizukage." Instantaneously after his declaration, all the minus Naruto, Gaara and Fu were wary as they paid careful attention to perhaps the cruelest cage in existence. Utakata grit his teeth as he observed the 4th Mizukage. "Your actions caused an entire civil war that has destroyed the entire village." Yuguru grew murderous as he glared at his fellow. "Actions that weren't under my control," and Uchiha wearing an orange mask and a black cloak adorned with red clouds attacked and enslaved me with his genjutsu. And that individual along with the other 9 members of that group is why I had you all brought here," Akira declared while shifting the attention to her once more. "I wish to make a deal with Naruto, but he is worried that leaving Earthland, the world Naruto spoke of, would leave the few people he cared for in danger, as the Akatsuki are a bunch of S-class criminals. And how exactly does this relate to us?" Yujito questioned as she locked eyes with her fellow blonde woman. "Because by moving you all to Earthland, it halts the Akatsuki's plan of capturing all of you, and they can, and will capture you if you stay here, consider the 4th Mizukage. He is immensely strong among you, and even he lost to one of their members and was controlled for a long time until just now," she explained calmly. "The Akatsuki won't attack the villages since they can't go around interrogating each one in regards to your whereabouts. I had thought of simply sending you all there to Earthland if Naruto agreed to my deal, but he wished for you all to decide for yourself if leaving this world is what you want." Being a Naruto said slowly. "It has people judge you unfairly, treat you unfairly, and if they could then they would decide every choice for us, and I'm not okay with that. I know you all aren't either, which is why I want you all to choose what you want just as I do." To say everyone was surprised was an understatement, even Gaara who fought and was on the receiving end of Naruto's kindness was stunned. Well little 9, I get to step out of line so I'm all for show, this will be a woe. My name is Killer B, I have a lot of wee. B's voice snapped everyone out of their shock. B? Yujiro roared as she smacked him once more. Stop embarrassing us. She sighed in frustration and tried to ignore the snickers of the other containers before turning to Naruto. My name is Yujiro and I'm the 2 tails, the idiot is the 8 tails. Everyone followed suit and introduced themselves. I'm Gaara of the desert and I'm the 1 tails. Gaara introduced himself to the group. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Yugura Karatachi and I'm the 3 tails. I am Rashi and the beast I contain is the 4 tails. I am also the oldest amongst you, also feel free to call me Rashi senpai or just senpai. The elderly man with red hair spoke kindly. It was after Rashi that the next one stepped forward, most definitely the largest of them all by a quiet margin, and cladded in heavy armor, and a red spoke up. My name is Han, and I'm one of the 5 tails. Yukata. 6 tails. A lanky teen with a blue yukata introduced himself boredly. My name is Fu. The green-haired preteen waved cheerily at the group, eliciting smiles, nods, and a blush from Gaara. And I'm the lucky number 7. Akira clasped her hands enthusiastically. Now that you're all introduced, I wish to hear your answer in regards to sending you to Earthland. Yes, about that. Rashi said, as he glanced her way. I think we all can agree that you really are a goddess with how you brought us all here at the same time from out of nowhere, but though I believe you, I have questions, a lot of them before I decide to go, and I'm sure that's the case with everyone else here. She gave him a sultry smile. Then fire away Rashi, but do keep in mind that I'll only answer a select few questions before I send you back to your respective villages. This world you spoke of, Earthland, is it peaceful? Or is that world also gripped by war and hatred? He asked her seriously. Earthland is extremely peaceful compared to the elemental nation, they too have their problems, as do all worlds, but compared to over here, that world is paradise. She replied truthfully. Here's the next question. Yukata said. Are there in that world? No. She shook her head. Will I get a chance to be part of a family? It was Fu that asked that question, a bit meek and embarrassed as she felt everyone gaze at her. Akira smiled gently and nodded. Most definitely Fu. Igura coughed to get the goddess's attention. Assuming that Naruto doesn't accept the deal between you and him, will you still send those of us who wish to leave to Earthland, or is that all dependent on whether Naruto agrees or not? Only if Naruto agrees to my deal, sending them to Earthland will draw attention to myself, attention that I do not want or need, but can stomach only if I have something to gain out of this. Fu dropped her head in worry. Now I believe that's enough. What exactly do you want from Naruto? What deal are you trying to make with him? Gaara cut her off while slightly earning her ire. That caught the curiosity of the remaining, as they all wondered what made Naruto so special that she would go out of her way to bring them here at his request. That is a matter that doesn't concern you or anyone else. I can respect that you're looking out for your friend, Gaara of the desert, but this deal is private and important to me, Akira patiently told him. Akira. Naruto softly called out. The goddess tossed a glance to her right, hazel eyes lit with curiosity and interest. Yes, my dear. I want you to send all those who wish to leave to Earthland. Do that and I will agree to your deal. He proposed. For the umpteenth time, Naruto caught everyone off guard with his words and offer. It was Fu most of all affected by his preposition. But why? She said, confused orange orbs meeting a resolute blue. Why agree to this deal of hers so that those of us who want can live in Earthland? I'm grateful, don't get me wrong, but why? That's because it's obvious that you and everyone here wants to go, we're all jinchurikis, that makes us family. He shrugged nonchalantly and Fu nodded shakily, touched by his words and sentiment. Gaara felt his lips twitch into a smile, that was his friend all right. But the word family before you send us back, I do have one last question. Gaara voiced out. If I decide to go to Earthland, can my siblings come with me? Akira nodded. Absolutely, just make sure that when you start glowing that they hold on to you so they can be transported with you to Earthland. I will give all of you a full day's time to do what you must. With a twist of her hand, a magic circle formed from above the group that sucked all but Naruto and returned them to their home. Turning towards Naruto, the goddess had to suppress a smile at his gobsmacked expression. They're a very lively bunch, aren't they? Naruto dumbly nodded. I'll be here tomorrow night, Naruto-kun. That should give you ample time to confront those 2 shinobis you respect so much in regards to your parents, though I believe my display has already convinced you that I'm not lying. Have a good night, my champion. She uttered elegantly, turning her back towards the shinobi and getting ready to leave. Wait. Naruto yelled out, gaining her attention as she peered over her shoulder to look at the 9 tails. Compassing himself, he spoke in a lower tone. Why me? What is it about me that you said you find impressive? What makes me different from the many others who are better than I am in everything? Why are you interested in making me your champion when I'm so weak? He asked her with all seriousness he could muster. Akira gazed at him softly, her eyes belying understanding and tenderness for the young shinobi. There are several reasons why, but let me start by saying that though there are others who are better than you in certain aspects, you surpass them all in the two categories that I value most. Will and kindness. Seeing Naruto's cute and confused expression, she elaborated more. I have laid witness to many kind souls who endured much pain, and it changed their gentle souls to something more malicious. You despite enduring so much are still kind, and that's something I can immensely respect. As for your will, she said simply, as she walked towards him. It's by far one of the strongest I have ever seen, and I wish to put it to good use. With a strong will to win, anything is possible. Your potential, my dear Naruto, is limitless. Akira smiled tenderly at him. I choose you because in addition to your kindness and will, you remind me a lot of myself when I was very young. She cupped his cheeks gently with both hands, caressing his face the way a mother would with her child. To me, you are better than everyone else. For the second time since the past several days, Naruto felt the blood rush to his cheeks at the goddess's declaration. Thank you. He replied a bit shyly. She giggled and nodded. There's one thing I need to know though. Why exactly did you attack them? The gods, I mean. What have they done to anger you so much? He asked her with no small amount of curiosity. She smiled at him, but Naruto felt uncomfortable as his danger senses blared madly from being in close proximity to her. Trust me, Naruto-kun, you don't want to know what those monsters have done. He nodded warily. I'll see you tomorrow night. She let go of the younger blonde's face and walked away, her form quickly fading away from the jinchuriki's eyes. It was strange. Leaving the hospital only at night and exploring Konoha when everybody else was asleep made Naruto a bit accustomed to walking the streets with no soul in sight. It was something he quickly grew to enjoy. Which is why he felt a little tad bit uncomfortable as he walked through the busy streets of Konoha. He tried ignoring and successfully blocked most of the whispers and comments made by the civilian population as he made his way to the tower. To his inner surprise though, some of the comments were either praises to his deeds or worry over his health. A week ago he would have jumped in joy at this revelation. He could hardly care anymore. The acknowledgement of those around him no longer mattered to him. All that mattered to him right now was asking Tsunade and Jiraiya the truth about his parents, to get his answer, and then to leave the elemental nation. That was the plan, as he entered the building. He should have learned by now that life was simply not that merciful. Naruto. Kakashi greeted his student with all the confidence he could muster. For the past week he felt a tidal wave of shame engulf and swallow him. He felt responsible for the condition of his pupil, as it was his decision to teach Sasuke the Chidori, his decision not to train his sensei's son properly. Swamped by regret and guilt, he found himself unable to approach the blonde to apologize over how much of a failure he was as a teacher to his precious student. Ironically enough, the shame only increased until he was forced to come before the blonde to ask for his forgiveness. I am so very sorry, I have failed you badly, and I should have never taught Sasuke that. It's my fault for teaching him that, and I bear full responsibility for what he did and for not training you properly. Kakashi bowed his head, unable to currently look at his student due to his incompetence. Naruto said nothing. What exactly could he say to the man? That he forgives him and was alright with just living and forgetting everything that happened till now. His teacher wasn't exactly bad to him, but neither was he good. Perhaps his sensei did deserve another chance to prove himself to the young shinobi, but Naruto felt such a thing did not matter to him. As of this moment, he had much more important things to think about that took priority over whether he should forgive someone or not. He walked past his teacher and left the copycat ninja to grief on his own in the hallway. Luckily Naruto didn't have anyone to converse with him. As he made his way to the Hokage's office, he stood before the door and knocked. Come in. Tsunade voiced out from behind the door. He needed no more invitation and stepped inside the office. Being greeted by a grin from Jiraiya and a small smile from Tsunade. About time you got off the hospital bed, it's good to see you on your feet, kiddo. Jiraiya exclaimed genuinely. What the pervert said, how are you doing, Naruto? Tsunade asked warmly. Naruto felt his heart slightly melt from the care shown by both Sannin. They weren't perfect, but they did care for him, and Naruto couldn't deny he cared for them as well. I'm doing alright. He replied back, much to Jiraiya and Tsunade's relief. That's good to hear. Speaking of good, me and Tsunade-chan were just discussing something, and we decided you could benefit from being outside the village, me and you on a trip. What do you think? Jiraiya inquired. I do like the idea of being outside and exploring, but there is something we need to talk about. Naruto stated seriously. Both older ninjas paid immense attention to the blonde, so he let the words flow. My parents. He revealed the topic of conversation to them. Jiraiya did a double take while Tsunade looked alarmed, wondering if that bastard Danzo contacted him. Naruto closed his eyes as he recollected last night's conversation with the goddess. I found out recently from someone that my parents are Kishino Uzumaki and the fourth Minato Namikaze. Naturally I doubted the person, but they said that I could verify the information with you both. Are they really my parents' names? Jiraiya found himself lost for words. Of all the things he was expecting his apprentice to bring up, this certainly wasn't what he had in mind. A small glance at Tsunade showed that she was in a similar predicament. Well? Naruto questioned, snapping the Sanins out of their shock. Naruto, who exactly told you that? Tsunade asked him. Naruto frowned. It doesn't matter who told me, all I want to know is if it's the truth. It matters to us because the person who told you this is undoubtedly dangerous and someone you should stay away from. They started to feel his irritation brewing at the lack of answer. Is it the truth or not? The room was silent, agonizingly silent, as both older ninjas said nothing until Jiraiya finally sighed and nodded. Both the Toad Sage and the Hokage grew uncomfortable as Naruto gazed at them and said nothing for a while. Prior to a week ago, if someone had told them that their favorite genin would be this quiet, they'd have laughed at the person's face and walked away. Why? Why keep this from me? Were you ever going to tell me who my parents were? Was the plan to keep this secret until your last breath? It was Tsunade who answered. We were planning to tell you when you become 17 years old. We kept this from you so we could protect you, Naruto. Naruto snarled lightly. And how exactly does this protect me? Your father, Jiraiya said, was a very powerful shinobi. He made a lot of enemies in his life who would be more than okay with torturing him, and worse, they lost their chance 13 years ago. But if by chance they learned about you, you would forever live your life looking after your shoulder. He has that many enemies. Enemies who would be delighted to hear about this. We kept this from you so as to lessen the possibility of people finding out and putting your life even more at risk than what it already is. Tsunade exclaimed. I still had a right to know. Naruto thundered angrily, startling both Jiraiya and Tsunade. Do you know how many times I wondered if my parents abandoned me? If they loved me or not? Those were questions I thought about every day, every single day. Your parents do love you, Naruto. Jiraiya spoke quietly. They were brimming with joy once they learned of you. Minato couldn't stop saying that he will be a father quite happily, and it was the same, if not more, with Kushina. They loved you so much. Naruto's eyes were cold as he glared at his master. Then why did my father seal the Kyuubi in me that night? Didn't he technically choose this village over me? And what about my mother? What happened to her? Jiraiya didn't flinch as he gazed back at his apprentice's eyes. Your father didn't choose Konoha over you if that's what you're thinking. You need to understand from Naruto that your mother was the previous, and for a good reason too. She was an Uzumaki. Tsunade said, dragging Naruto's attention to her. The Uzumaki clan is a cousin clan to the Senjus, and they, and only they, had the biology strong enough to withstand having the 9 tails sealed within them. That's also the reason why the previous before Kushina was Mito Uzumaki, the first Hokage's wife, and my grandmother. Naruto Jiraiya placed his hand on the younger shinobi's shoulder. Minato had strong morals for a shinobi. He could never ask another parent to give their child so he could seal a beast inside them, and even if he could, you were the only one capable of containing the 9 tails. He hated doing that to you, but it was either letting the Kyuubi rampage and killing everyone in Konoha while he fled with you and getting hunted by his many enemies, or it was sealing the Kyuubi in you and ensuring that at the very least that you have a village to live in that will prevent his enemies from coming after you. Jiraiya finished saying. It was never a matter of either choosing you or the village, Naruto. You were just extremely unlucky. Tsunade went over to embrace the blonde. Once within cuddling distance, she hugged tightly and lightly kissed his forehead, doing her best to comfort the shinobi clearly in pain. Naruto had to admit that he did feel better being embraced by Tsunade. He may have called her grandma many times, but she was more motherly to him than anything. Speaking of motherly, I still want to know what happened to my mother. Naruto asked a lot more calmly than earlier. An unfortunate side effect for female jinchurikis is that when they give birth, the seal really weakens, which is the perfect time for when a tailed beast wishes to escape. Once a tailed beast escapes from their container, the container dies, and that's what happened with Kushina. Jiraiya declared morosely. The blonde frowned. So it's my fault that my parents are dead. Nuo? Tsunade bellowed. Naruto, that night with Kyuubi's escape was in no way your fault, and I will put you in the hospital myself if you think otherwise. Naruto left the hug and stepped away from the female. But it's because of me that the Kyuubi's seal weakened to the point that he escaped and killed many people, including my parents. If it weren't for me, then they would still be alive. Naruto Jiraiya stepped forward and stopped when said shinobi raised his hand. He turned and faced away from his master and I needed to be alone, but Naruto looked over his shoulder to glance at the 2 older shinobis. Thank you for being honest with me. He walked away and didn't look back to see the despondent and regretful look gracing their features. A few hours had passed until it was finally the scheduled time to talk to Akira. Naruto waited in the forest patiently, his mind drifting to thoughts of the future and what it would be like to live in Earthland. The shinobi hadn't the faintest clue if being in a new world would be his best or worst decision, but he did know one thing, and that was that he wasn't ever going to be weak ever again. Whether he would come to love Earthland as his world or not remained to be seen, but following Akira, he would have the power to kill a god. And with that power, Naruto could ensure the safety of those he cared for and protect them from any harm that would befall on them. I'm happy you came to Naruto-kun. A melodious voice pulled him from his thoughts, and Naruto looked up to see the same goddess he was waiting for right in front of him. You have no idea just how pleased I am with your decision that you have decided to become my champion. Akira smiled and walked towards him. Her beautiful majestic form clad in a black toga that reached all the way down to her ankles and left her arms and delicate shoulders exposed. The fabric was tight and well fitted, easily accentuating her voluptuous figure and causing the younger blonde to feel his cheeks heat up slightly before he forced down his blush and regarded her calmly. Your offer already caught my attention, but knowing that if I refused that my fellow wouldn't be able to start a new life, that would be extremely selfish of me. Naruto crossed his arms as he eyed her. His response had her giggle. Naruto-kun, my Naruto-kun, Akira drawled out slowly, seductively, as she stood before him, placing a hand on his face and stroking his whisker marks tenderly. You're doing such a thing for your fellow. It was an example of how I was right in that you're still a really kind soul despite all you've gone through. Naruto said nothing. Before I send you to Earthland, I will ask only once. Do you truly wish to leave everyone you know behind? Without saying any goodbyes. She dropped her hand and looked seriously into the eyes of the shorter blonde. I left a note in my room telling Jiraiya and Tsunade that I will come back someday once I'm strong enough to protect them and myself from the threat of the Akatsuki. If I go through with this, will I ever be able to come back here? He questioned her. Yes, but only after I deem you strong enough to be able to face the strongest of the Akatsuki, and when will I grant you the ability to travel between worlds? She crossed her arms, daring him to challenge her. Very well, I agree with this. I will become the strongest god slayer in existence, I will face and kill the gods who sealed you, and I will release you from your prison. Naruto vowed to her, eliciting an extremely pleased smile to form on the heart-fluttering visage of the blonde goddess. Then you will need this, Naruto-kun. She handed him an old ancient book. I unfortunately won't be able to teach you myself as I am sealed away, but this book should help in explaining how to grasp and utilize darkness god slayer magic. Who are the gods that did this to you? The one I'm supposed to slay? You'll know in the future, but Naruto-kun, she voiced out softly to the attentive. Be very careful of the fellow god slayers you'll cross paths with and most importantly stay safe, okay? Naruto stared at her silently for a couple of seconds. When will I see you again? I myself do not know, there is a limit to how much this corporeal form can do, and I've pretty much almost reached that limit. My guess is that I can only appear before you one last time, and then that's it. I won't be able to interact with the outside world ever again until I'm freed. You're my only hope. She added. Thank you, Akira. Akira smiled genuinely. No, Naruto Uzumaki, thank you. Dear. X777. It happened out of nowhere. 9 massive surges of power flooded the world and threw Earthland into a state of disarray and chaos. People from all over the world, whether in the highest peak in the largest mountain or on the normal streets of a peaceful town, all felt it. It mattered not whether one was an average day citizen or be they the toughest mage the lands had to offer. Almost all reeled back in fright. Fortunately, the different surges of power vanished, leaving many to wonder if they imagined the whole experience. The Magic Council panicked and shouted at one another as they argued about the cause of the sudden upsurge of strength. Far away into the oceans and on an isolated island, a raven-haired man cried tears of joy as he sensed the potential of his death increasing by quite a bit. It was clear to all the beings in the world that something has changed. So this is Earthland already. I can tell that it's a much better world than the elemental nation. Kankuro remarked as he looked around the world he and his siblings got pulled into. I'm just glad that we hugged you quickly when you started glowing white, Gaara. We are not okay with you being in a different world by yourself. Tamari said as she continued hugging her youngest sibling. What she said, Gaara? Kankuro exclaimed with a small smile. Gaara smiled back. Thank you, Tamari, Kankuro. Well, I don't know about you both, but I'd like to find out where we are. Tamari said as she let go of The siblings looked around and Gaara spotted a sign above his sister's head. It read Harjun Town, he murmured softly. Tamari glanced around the town and nodded satisfyingly. This place is really beautiful, I wouldn't mind living here, already I can tell that it's much better compared to when we were in Sunagakure. She smiled and nodded at a couple of civilians who smiled and waved in their direction. Kankuro chuckled. I agree, sister, but let's take this one step at a time. We must first find out more about the world we live in, but with that being said, I too have no issue with us having a home here. What do you think, Gara? Well, we won't accomplish anything by standing here, let's check out this Harjan town, but only after we're done eating. Gara swiftly walked towards the restaurant advertising a blueberry pie. His curiosity and interest piqued by the strange-looking food. Kankuro and Tamari quickly followed after them, Kankuro in particular stealthily nabbing the wallet of the fool ogling his sister as they walked past him. Tamari deadpanned Kankuro, we haven't been here for 5 minutes and already you stole someone's wallet. Not my fault that the asset was ogling you, that should teach him to not stare at you the way he did. Besides, we need money in order to pay for the food. Kankuro swiftly defended himself. Or are you telling me that we were going to dine and dash in the first restaurant we sit in? If you ask me, I think Kankuro did the right thing, that guy can go to hell. Gara gave his brother a thumbs up. Kankuro grinned smugly towards his sister. Is there anything else you want to say? Tamari looked at him blankly before she smirked. Nice makeup. It's war paint. Vegito stared back inquisitively at the bald and very plump old man, he had a very unique look to him, he was a man right. My name is Bob, I am the master of the guild Blue Pegasus, my dearie. Bob cooed very enthusiastically and clapped his hands together. Killer B grinned at the beautiful specimen of a human being in his eyes, Blue Pegasus sounded like his kind of place. I'm Killer B, don't mess with me, otherwise I'll make you feel. Vegito felt the urge to smack her fellow and just barely resisted, she rolled her eyes at her friend and turned towards the strange but friendly-looking man. My name is Yujito Nai and I have to ask you to forgive my very eccentric friend. His mother dropped him on his head as a child. That's why he's like this. Bob giggled. Oh, it's no problem, my dear, I actually find this man's behavior and stunningly unique looks quite fetching. He giggled some more and Yujito couldn't help but sigh as she noticed the grin on Killer B's face. See Yujito, only you don't rhyme. That's why I need to get you some lime. B voiced out passionately. The two tails felt a vein bulge on her forehead, she turned towards her fellow shinobi with a very sweet look and B cringed heavily as he knew what came next. Wow, cute and short, you're so my type of man. A beautiful lady of average height with chestnut brown hair and sparkling emerald eyes commented as she gazed into Yagura's fiery pink orbs. She found him to be quite curious. One moment walking normally while contemplating her lack of a love life, then seeing a handsome yet tiny midget appear before her eyes, to say he caught her eye was an understatement. Who are you calling short, you buffoon? I may be short, but I am very powerful, and am older than you. Yagura returned her gaze with fierce intensity, his agitation growing, as the woman he stumbled on started giggling at him. I'm sorry for the rudeness, I seem to have forgotten my manners by just being around you. My name is Fonda Rose. She introduced herself, and Yagura suppressed a blush as his eyes averted to her bountiful chest for a split second before he caught himself. I am Yagura Karatachi. Wonderful. Fonda exclaimed passionately, much to the shinobi's confusion. Now that introductions are out of the way, let's fight till we drop. That way we can find out who is more powerful between the two of us, after that I'm sure you and I can get to know one another very well. Her insinuation was quite clear as she winked much to the mortification of the blushing fourth Mizukage. Do you not have any shame? Honda grinned. Shame? Why, I've never heard of the word. This is a curious place, it reminds me of a monk temple with how everyone is dressed in clean robes and meditating. Rashi thought curiously as he walked around the interior of the building. Of all the places he expected to be when he started to glow white, ending up in an isolated room with just a bed and a few books is not what he had in mind. Leaving said room and coming across many men and women meditating and praying had Rashi feeling a bit curious. Who exactly did they worship here? Were they even worshipping someone? Or was this act of prayer that they all performed involved self-love and self-worship? The only figure Rashi recalled that people ever prayed to back in the elemental nation was the Shinigami, and it was a very scarce amount of those who chose to pray to him. He certainly teleported in a nice but strange place, he wasn't complaining. First time here, brother. Rashi turned around and was met with the sight of a muscular bald man with a goatee clad in white robes approaching him. I'm afraid so, if it's no inconvenience for you then would you mind telling me where I am? The bald man smiled lightly and nodded. It's no inconvenience at all, this place right here is the church and in here we worship the water god Slayer. Rashi raised an eyebrow. Water god Slayer? The man chuckled and nodded. Oh, where are my manners, my name is Jasmine Khan and the water god Slayer is the one we worship here in this church. Her name is Zara and she's our goddess of peace. Peace was a concept that Rashi could wholeheartedly get behind. Tell me more. Jasmine smiled in response. Brother, you and I must find a table to sit at because I have a lot to share. Now it was Rashi's turn to smile, already he could tell that his stay here in this world will be much better. Pan made his way through the bustling streets of Era, ignoring the hushed whisper and surprised glances that came his way. Being large, as he was, and also being the of the five tails had hand placed in the center of attention wherever he was, it was the norm for him. He'd honestly find it strange if people weren't looking at him. Though if people weren't looking at him then well true that he may find it strange, but he could see himself getting used to it. So lost in thought as he was, Han did not notice the young child before him until said child tapped his leg. Snapped out of his thoughts, he came to a stop and gazed at the one responsible for returning to the outside world, a curious young lad that seemed to be about 7 or perhaps 8 years old. He knelt down to be at eye level with the cute child, an auburn hair-colored boy with innocent brown eyes. "Excuse me mister, but are you with the Rune Knights? You look super big and strong, so it only makes sense that you're with them." Han couldn't help the pride he felt at the words of the young child before him. He chuckled slightly, then ruffled the boy's hair. "I'm afraid that I'm not with them soon, but if they are as cool as you make them out to be, then I should probably join." The boy rapidly nodded his head. "Yeah. They're super cool sir, in fact they are Jason." The boy immediately paled and turned around slowly to look at his mother. Han looked curiously at the woman and quelled the urge to whistle. She was tall for a woman standing at about 5'9", possessing waist-length wavy purple hair that framed a heart-shaped face. Voluptuous she was, Han noted, but he found her most dizzying feature to be her sharp charcoal-colored eyes. "How many times have I told you to not run off like that young man, you have to be very, very careful." The woman scolded her son and he deflated a bit before perking up. "But mama, I was talking to this super big muscly guy," Jason said while gesturing to the man behind him. Han tried and failed miserably to suppress his smile. "And I was telling him about how the Rune Knights are so cool and how he should join them." The mother turned towards the man and gasped as she gazed at one of the largest men she'd ever seen in her life, possibly the largest, but something about him screamed gentle giant to her. She offered him a small smile. "I'm sorry about my son sir, he can be a bit of a knucklehead I'm afraid. My name is Olivia and my son is Jason." Han smiled back. "No apologies are necessary, Miss Olivia, I'm Han, and I found your son to be a sparkling conversationalist. Because of him I have decided to join the Rune Knights." She giggled. "This is the first time I hear that my son is a sparkling conversationalist. He takes after his mother I believe." He flirted with her. Olivia felt her cheeks tint pink. "Okay Olivia you got this, you flirted with many men before Jason was born, remember, this should be a piece of cake. I hope he takes after you with a super big muscly body." She cringed on the inside, never had she embarrassed herself like this. Yukata looked curiously at the horn-masked demon before him. She looked pretty. Pretty in I'm going to kill you sort of way. He also couldn't help but note that she was rather busty. "Who are you?" Even her voice sounded like silk. Soothing and blissful to hear despite the rage that lurked within her tone. "I'm Yukata, who are you?" She bristled. "The name is Kyoka of the 9 Demon Gates. I'd watch your words boy." He looked at her flatly. "My words are normal Kyoka-chan." Kyoka barely reined in her fury. She needed to find out who this human was and why he gave off a demon-like aura. Attacking him was not an option, even though it would be incredibly pleasing to hurt him. And, as much as it hurt her pride to admit, Kyoka could already tell that she was hilariously outclassed if the way her danger senses were flaring madly just by being around this man. Not mentioning that she could sense his power and the quantity of it was massive. Attacking him would lead to her downfall. Kyoka wasn't even sure if even the entirety of the 9 Demon Gates banded together could win against him. She needed to be smart with her approach. "How did you appear here and what are your intentions?" She asked a bit more softly. "Someone teleported me here by chance, and my intentions. Honestly I have no idea what to do with my life, though a comfy bed with some food and water sounds lovely." He shrugged his shoulders. "Interesting, so there is a possibility to bring him over to our side, a possibility I must definitely exploit." She noticed his eyes darted quickly towards her large round breasts and she couldn't help but smile. It seemed her womanly charms would play a big role in convincing him to join. "Well I believe I can help with that Yukata-kun." She purred much to his amusement. "Come follow me." She walked past him and he followed her. Yukata felt a flush involuntarily creep up on his cheeks as he easily noticed that Kyoka's ass was mostly bare, 2 big mounds of flesh that rippled with every step she took. So lost was he in admiring her fat swaying rump that he didn't realize Kyoka looked back at him with a sultry smug smirk, thoroughly satisfied with the conclusion that she had him in the palm of her talons, or rather between the large globes of her expansive bubble butt. Kyoka barely quelled the urge to chuckle at the thought. He was more powerful than Margir, and by extension that made Kyoka more powerful than Margir. With Tartarus under my command, we will surely be able to become strong enough to eventually kill Lord Zareth. Boys, why do you insist on living your life like this? It's not a respectable or a happy way to live your life." Makarov couldn't help but question the group of 4 men that stood before him. It seemed like these guys were unaware of who he was and were delighted to try and rob him. "Shut it, old man, just give us the money, otherwise it won't end well for you," the one furthest to the left called out. Makarov sighed, looking at them with great swells of pity and remorse. How sad it was for their lives to revolve around stealing from the old and weak. Such a waste of potential and spirit, he thought regretfully. At least he tried to reason with them. The guy all the way at the back grew angry at Makarov for being slow and started to advance to him, rolling up his sleeves and getting ready to break the short elderly man's nose for wasting their time. "Leave the old man alone," Fu yelled as she jumped off the roof to deliver a spinning kick to the guy who was advancing menacingly towards the elderly. Her yelling caught the man off guard as he turned and he was launched back as the kick connected with his face and knocked him unconscious. Getting over the shock of watching one of their own getting knocked down by a preteen girl, the other three men instantly moved towards her, ready to teach her a lesson for interfering in their business, and they found themselves stuck courtesy of a giant hand that held them all in place. Looking at the origin of the extremely large hand, all three assailants found their eyes darting to the short old man they were pestering. Makarov glared at them. "It's one thing when you choose to attack me, but to attack a little girl." Power exploded around the short wizard saint, a fiery overwhelming aura of white that split the ground, caused many small hurricanes to form, and would have brought down the trembling men to their knees had Makarov not held them in place. "I drew the line there." But the same hand that held the assailants, Makarov raised his enlarged arm and threw a more like smashed the three remaining attackers on the ground, instantly breaking some bones and sending them to a state of unconsciousness, much like their fourth member. Makarov glared at the downed men with disgust. How repulsive. His arm returning back to its normal size, he turned towards the girl that came to his defense, and his eyes softened. "Thank you, little miss, for coming to save me. My name is Makarov Dreyer. What's your name if you don't ask me?" Who looked at the short man with admiration in her eyes. What he did was so cool. "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Makarov. I'm Fu, and you don't have to thank me. It was the right thing to do, you know. Can't exactly watch a defenseless old man take on four jerks, except you weren't defenseless, and I thought you were amazing, and everything." She rambled on a bit nervously. Makarov let out a deep bellyful of laughter. "Please don't call me Mr., just Makarov or old man or even Gramps." Fu grinned cheerfully. "Thank you again for trying to save me, and thank you for the nice compliments. I'm afraid it's been a while since I last heard any coming my way." "It's no probs, Gramps, you looked pretty wicked throwing three grown men on the floor so easily. Where are you from anyway?" she asked inquisitively. The elderly wizard saint smiled. "I'm from Fairy Tale." "Fairy Tale?" she murmured interestedly. He nodded. "It's a guild where people can find job requests, take missions, and earn money. But more than that, it's a place where people come to make friends, be part of a family, and to have a never-ending adventure." Who had stars in her eyes. "It sounds exactly like my kind of place." Makarov grinned, looking like he had another brat to look and care for. "Where is this place? Where did Akira send me?" Naruto questioned internally as he walked through the desolate snow-filled forest. He looked around and all he could see through the harsh blizzard was flakes of snow piling on everything till all his surroundings had deep layers of snow to it. No matter where he glanced, he found all the environment to be the same. He sighed and continued to walk. Not exactly how he envisioned his first visit to this world would be like. Naruto continued to walk for a long while. A few hours passed by and he found himself getting tired of just walking through this maze. Starved and cold as he was, one could forgive him for being in a foul mood. Fortunately, just before he could lose his sanity, he spotted a large cabin in the middle of a snow-decorated clearing and headed there swiftly. Standing before the wooden door, Naruto knocked and waited for the occupant of the house to reveal themselves. With any luck, said occupant of the cabin might be merciful and welcome the young blonde inside. He hoped. The shinobi didn't have to wait long as he heard the sound of boots trampling on the floor echoing and becoming louder by the second. The door opened wide and Naruto found himself gazing at what was most definitely the tallest man he had ever seen in his life. The giant had to be at least 8 feet something tall, and, as he towered over the short blonde, Naruto found himself relieved that he at least wasn't built like the famed Drakage of Kumo. Despite not having that sort of build, Naruto could easily see the muscles that bulged through the man's blue sweater. Majestic coffee-colored hair fell down elegantly from his head down to his mid-back. Naruto noted glowing amber eyes shaped like jewels. Cool, but a bit strange, he found. The tall man possessed a pale complexion, and it only seemed to enhance the look of his long gracefully braided beard, swaying with the winds of the snow blizzard. All in all, the man looked like a regal powerful entity who could easily snap him in half. "Hello, young one, do you seek shelter from the storm outside?" Naruto nodded. "Yes, please." The towering man stepped aside to let him in. The shinobi wasted no time and headed inside immediately, making sure to thank the man as he did so for his kindness. "It was of no consequence, young one. If I can help someone, then I will. My name is Tur." The giant introduced himself. "Naruto Uzumaki," he said slowly. Tur nodded. Well, it's nice to meet you, Naruto. I do imagine that you're cold and that you must be starving, so please, follow me. Ter promptly headed towards the living room where the fireplace was located. He had the blonde sit on the seat close to the wooden stove to warm himself and in the meantime decided to make dinner for both him and his unexpected resident today. It was perhaps 15 minutes later that Ter returned to the blonde and found his eyes softening at the scene of the blonde boy just sitting patiently next to the fireplace. Naruto, I made us some food, come join me and let us feast tonight. He placed the food on the table and shifted the table closer towards the wood stove so they could still be warm. He sat at the table and then got up and joined him. Thank you, Ter. He mumbled quietly. Ter smiled. As I said earlier, I'm happy to help. They ate quietly and savored their meal, Naruto finding the food to be especially delightful as his eyes watered slightly from the delicious cooking. It's mushroom beef stew, if you're wondering, a personal favorite of mine as it is quite delicious and has lots and lots of nutrients. Ter remarked helpfully, easily noticing the effect his food had on his guest. Naruto hummed approvingly. I like it. Ter chuckled slightly. I am glad it was to your liking, but Naruto, the shinobi glanced at the towering figure with no small amounts of confusion and inquisitiveness. Do you have any family or close friends? And if you do, then when do you plan to return to them? Naruto frowned. I don't have a family to return to, and I don't have a lot of friends. Ter internally cringed as he gazed at the young blonde. He looked to be about 12 years old and he had no one to care for him. What did the world come into? If you don't mind me asking, why exactly were you out there during that storm? He asked gently. I want to become stronger. The village I lived in, the residents of that village weren't very enthusiastic about helping me become strong. And why do you wish to become strong? Ter questioned, making sure to stay away from any personal or sensitive topics. Naruto didn't have to think hard about this. So that I can protect the people who are precious to me from harm. Ter was impressed with the boy's answer. Of all the answers he was expecting to hear, this by far was what surprised and stunned him. To be so young yet give such an intelligent and mature answer, this boy has potential. Ter mused. Perhaps it was fate that brought a boy with no family towards him, a man who also possessed no family alive to speak of. Naruto thirsted for power, and fate brought the boy to him. Ter was by no means arrogant or full of himself, but that didn't mean he wasn't capable of acknowledging that he was an extremely powerful mage. It was enormous perhaps, but Naruto could have been brought here so that he could train the boy and turn him into a powerful warrior. But was it right to do so? Already Naruto suffered enough from what he could see, and by taking him on as a disciple, he'd further rob the blonde from some of the experiences that life had to offer. But he supposed that such a choice in the end was for the young blonde to decide. Naruto, how do you feel about me taking you on as a student and training you to become a powerful mage and warrior? That caught me off guard. Well, I mean perhaps a demonstration of my abilities is required. Ter interrupted gently. Naruto nodded apologetically. Well, for now let's continue to enjoy our feast, have a good night's rest afterward, then I can show you my power first thing in the morning. Sorry if I offended you, Ter. Naruto apologized. Feeling guilty for unintentionally insulting the man after he welcomed him inside and gave him food to eat. There is nothing to apologize for, the young one, it is only logical that you'd wish to assess my combat capability when I'd make such an offer. He waved off the apology. Now let's eat and don't be shy about grabbing another bowl of mushroom beef stew. Thank you, Ter. Naruto grabbed himself another bowl and internally thanked Akira for sending him here. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.